let's start with some division problems that you already know the answer to. Okay, if I said 300 divided by 100, you're like 100 and 100 and 100 make 300. So the answer is 3. How many 10s to make 40? 10, 20, 30, 40. The answer is 4. 5,000 divided by 1,000, 1,000, 1,000, 1,000, 5 of those. So we get 5. So let's start with just big picture. If you divide a number by 10, 100, or 1,000, what happens to the size of the number? 300 became 3, 40 became 4, 5,000 became 5, right? The answer is going to be smaller when we divide by 10, 100, or 1,000. So if our numbers are going to get smaller, a huge shortcut to this division is we can just take and move the decimal point to the left. And you just count the number of zeros in the original. Okay, so for this one right here, I'm going to take 3.16 divided by 10. There's 1 0. So I'm going to take the decimal point and I'm going to move it backwards 1 place. Like that. And if I move it back 1 spot, right there, and now we have our answer. Now, this one here, okay, so if we have this one, because we're dividing by 100, we have 2 zeros. So we're going to move the decimal back 2 places. But if you move the decimal backwards 2 places, I need a placeholder. So I'm moving this decimal 1, 2, but I'm going to need to add a 0 in there to hold the place value spot. So let's take a look there. Again, 1, 2, so 0, 8, 5, 4. Okay, then this one here, if I'm going to divide by 1,000, the number 1,000 has 3 zeros. So I'm going to move the decimal left 3 places. So if I move this decimal left 3 places, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, I'm going to end up needing a couple of zeros to hold that place. 51.7 divided by 10. Okay, the number 10 has just 1 0. So I'm going to move the decimal point back 1 place. So if I move the decimal back 1 place, whoops. If I move that back 1 spot, sorry, I'm going to end up with 5.17. Now in 42, I don't see the decimal point. Does anybody remember where a decimal is if you don't see it? What if I said $42? $42 is 42.00. Okay, so we don't see the decimal point, but I'm going to go ahead and put in the decimal point right there because 42 has a decimal there that we don't see. Now I'm ready to count the zeros. Divided by 100, there are 2 zeros, so I'm going to move the decimal back 2 places. And if I move the decimal back 2 places, 1, 2, my answer is 0.42. Okay, last one. If I have 0.71 divided by 100, there's 2 zeros. So I'm going to move the decimal left 2 spots. So if I move the decimal left 2 spots, 1, 2, 1, whoops, 1, 2. I'm gonna need an extra 0 there. So 0.0071, 1, 2. Now, if you were to put this number on your calculator, if you just typed in 0.42 enter, what happens? Like those of you who have your calculators out, just type 0.42 enter. What's your calculator do? You see how it puts a 0 in front of the 42? If I have 42 cents, it's just fine on each one of these to enter it just as I've written them. But if you want, you can put a 0 in the front. So I'm just putting a 0 in the front of these. And the answer is the same thing. If you saw a price tag that said 0.42, it's 42 cents. Or if you saw just 0.42, 42 cents. So sometimes you'll see that 0 there in the ones place. So big picture, count how many zeros there are. If you don't see a decimal point, put it at the end of the number. And then take the decimal point and move it to the left however many zeros there are. And as you're moving it, if you end up, in this case, moving it twice, I need an extra 0 there to hold the place value.